Hey everyone, just got done recording with Ryan Hawk, and I'll say he was absolutely fantastic. Ryan Hawk has learned from the best minds in the self-development industry. He's had him on his podcast, and man, it shows. He has learned so much from them, retained it, and he communicated it so well in our discussion. You're really going to enjoy it. We talk about how to put purpose into action. He gives some really great examples of how to do that. He kind of walked through his step-by-step process of everything he did to figure out his purpose and his core values and how to put it into action in his everyday life with some really simple examples that just bring it to life. I think he talked about fear and living on the edge. He talked about curiosity and how curiosity for him leads to courage, which I had never heard before. I hadn't heard anyone frame it the way he framed it. It was absolutely fantastic and it makes a lot of sense. And he talked about success versus excellence. You know, I've used the word success a lot, but he really talked about the importance of focusing on excellence over success. I think it's really impactful and something for me to think about. And man, he got me fired up. He got me excited. I'm going to get a little bit passionate in this discussion. And I think it's because of how good he is at articulating things and how passionate he was. I think it's going to get you fired up as well. You're definitely going to enjoy this one. Check it out. Hello and welcome to the Purpose Matrix. I am very, very excited for today's guest, Mr. Ryan Hawk. Ryan, how are you doing today? I'm good. Thanks for having me, Phil. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. We were talking a little bit beforehand and I asked Ryan, hey, anything specific you want to talk about? And he just, I knew this as I was doing research on Ryan and getting to know him more, but he's like, however I can serve the audience. And that's what Ryan is all about. He has been serving his audience by the host of the Learning Leader Show for, I think, over 600 different episodes, Ryan, if that's right. Hundreds of thousands of listeners per episode, millions of overall listens, just having a great impact, extremely passionate about leadership. We have some of the lessons and what we will talk about, I think today are very aligned in a lot of things. He is the author of 3 different books, Welcome to Management, The Pursuit of Excellence, and The Score That Matters. I have it here. Ryan, I have to tell you a quick story. This is the only book it showed up on our front porch. We have a new lab puppy. It got to the book. So the back of the book, you can see it if you're on YouTube. It's taped up, but it didn't get any pages, and I read the whole thing. But anyway, just a very in-demand speaker for Fortune 500 companies, big companies. And on his podcast, and I want to lead into a question here. I mean, he's had names. So Jim Collins, Tony Robbins, Simon Sinek, Ryan Holiday, John Maxwell, Will Willink, Tim Ferriss, Ed Milet, Tim and Brian Kite, who we talked about. And I want to ask you, Ryan, so 600 plus episodes, you're interviewing the top minds of today. And one thing you talk a lot about yourself is self-leadership and the importance of understanding yourself. So through all those discussions, how has that built your self-awareness that has then contributed to how you lead?
I think it's just given me a lot of exposure to a variety of ways to sustain excellence over an extended period of time. There isn't one way to do it. There are lots and lots of ways. So I've probably have gained more, I see more value in diversity of thought, diversity of experiences, different ages, different levels of experience, different places in the world where you've lived, people that you've spent time around, schools you went to. I mean, really everything. I think that's helpful. I think it's helpful to get exposed to those types of things, to have 655 conversations with wildly different people and incredible careers, different ages, different locations, different lifestyles, all across the political spectrum, atheist to hardcore religious, like everything. I am fascinated by the stories of people, and I am open to talking to anyone and everyone. I don't discriminate. And I think actually having all these conversations has made me a more reasonable, open, and curious person. I think those are all good skills and good traits to possess that I maybe 11 plus years ago when this started didn't have all of that. So if anything, just being exposed to so many different types of people has really opened my eyes and made me a much more curious person, and certainly less judgmental as well.
Yeah, and curious and just thoughtfulness, I think, are part of who you are, your core values. You talk about that. But one question I have, so 600 plus different people, thought leaders, and there are a variety of ways to excellence. We'll talk about excellence versus success here probably in a little bit, but there's a variety of ways, as you said. But so for yourself, as you figure out yourself and how you want to, whether it's lead or just be a better person, How do you filter through all of those different, just all this information coming in, shiny object, I should try this, I should try that. Like for our listeners, people are out there saying, hey, I've heard all these great things, but I can't figure out, like, how do I tick? What works for me? How did you work through that process yourself?
Well, it's great to learn everything that I've learned, but I think it has to flow through your own personal purpose and your own core values and the critical behaviors that make those core values true. So I worked with a coach who helped me get very clear on my purpose and my values. That coach happens to be the co-author of that book you were just holding up, Brooke Cups, who now we work together as a team, coaching and working with leaderships. People. So my purpose is to inspire others to value and pursue excellence. I think the world is too okay with mediocrity. I think too many people are too okay with medium to low standards. And I want to inspire others to raise their standards, to value excellence and then be in pursuit of it. Excellence is the gradual result of always striving to do better, right? Always lift and raise your standards. I hope I am striving to live in a way that inspires others to do that. My core values are being thoughtful, thankful, curious, and consistent. I get very clear on what it means to be a thoughtful person, what it means to be thankful, right? What it means to be really curious and really consistent, to show up every day and do what I need to do. It took a lot of work to get there, to get clear on my purpose and to get clear on my values. I needed help. I needed friends. I needed a coach. And I think once you get very clear on what that is for you, it makes decision making easier. It supplies me with prompts at the end of each day that I live in according to my purpose and my values. I can just ask myself, the critical behavior for being thankful for me is leave it better, meaning leave people, places, and things better than I found them. So that's a simple prompt I can ask myself at the end of each day. Did I live out my value of being thankful? What does it actually look like? Well, when I was going for a walk in the park with my dog, my wife, and I saw a piece of trash on the ground, did I pick it up? That's how you leave that place better. When I did a podcast with Phil, did I bring every ounce of energy and heart and passion that I have to that podcast to leave Phil and Phil's audience better than I found them? Okay. Yes, that's how I'm living out that value of being thankful. So that goes for all of your values. It goes for your purpose. I think it helps you create, at least it does for me, create prompts for myself to ensure I'm living in alignment. And when I end each day saying, yes, I did that. Yes, I did that. That's when I feel like I'm on fire. That's when I feel like, let's go. I am doing what I am meant to do. What I was put here to do is that, and that's what I'm doing. And I think if you do that, you have a pretty good chance to leave a very positive dent in the world. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I just think whoever it is, everyone's got their own purpose. Everyone needs to create their own values. And then you got to create the prompts to ensure that you're upholding those and actually living them out. If you do that, again, I'm probably pushing my chips behind you. I'm betting on you to leave a positive dent in the world.
Wow. Okay. So first you're bringing the fire. You are doing it. So I appreciate that. There's about 10 things that are going through my head, but I want to go to two of them. First, excellence versus success. And I'll also use what you talk about, but your compass, your purpose is your compass, your guide versus your destination. And I don't think you say this, I didn't catch this, but do you differentiate vision and purpose? Do you think they're very important? Like, is there a distinction between the two?
Maybe. I don't know if I've really thought about that very much. I really focus on my purpose, my core values, and my critical behaviors that make those values true. So vision, I guess it could be good to have it. Maybe if you're a CEO of a company, you're visionary. My company is not huge. It's a small company of coaches. So I don't really think about that. I'm just trying to live out my purpose more so. Yeah. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's not something I really think about.
And what I like about it is it goes to this thought of excellence versus success, because as you talked about what you're trying to do, how you're trying to have an impact, I did not hear, I talked earlier about, hey, followers, hundreds of thousands of listeners, all these names of people that you've had on, right? That you have been extremely successful in the world's eyes and in the industry that you're in. You've been extremely successful, but you didn't say any of that. So tell me, help us understand success versus excellence.
So this comes from Brooke Cups, who I know you know well. That's part of Brooke's purpose. But success is really a comparison with others, or it's defined by what society says is what you should do. Whereas excellence is an internal metric. It's, again, excellence is you maximizing your potential. Excellence is you living up to your purpose and to your values. It's much more personal. That's how we view it. That doesn't mean it's right, but that's how we view excellence versus success. It has never been easier to compare yourself with other people. You can do it all day, every day. Just look at your phone. You'll see it everywhere on Instagram and everywhere else. We all probably we fall prey to that from time to time. We're human, right? But that's where the getting very clear on what your purpose and your values are and trying to block out the noise of that comparison game is what we strive to do. We're not perfect. We struggle at times, but when we work with leaders and we see that moment happen where they get clear on their purpose, their values, and thinking about excellence over success, it's really cool. It is transformational leadership. It can really impact them as a whole person, not just what they do at work, but who they are as a mom or a dad or a husband or a wife, and seeing the impact they can have on their families and in their communities. It legitimately is life-changing stuff. So I know this because I started as the student. I started as the person being taught, and then decided to write a book with the person that taught me. And so that book, again, the one that your dog ate, part of it is written. I'm proud of it because it's written from the perspective of a teacher and a student, and I got to be the student. And so you get to see it from both perspectives of someone who's a little bit further along than the other person, and then they kind of chopped it up and wrote it together. And to me, that's been so rewarding and gratifying. And I think it's available to everybody, but you just got to be willing to do the work.
And we're having a luncheon this week. Well, so timing, Brooke is coming in to talk. We're going to be giving away about 40 of these books to people to read.
Nice.
Of the book, The Score That Matters. I want to talk. So purpose statement. So your purpose statement, you talked about that. I have it written down here. So my purpose is to inspire and educate others to live their God-given purpose. Very similar to yours. Yours is
to inspire others to value and pursue excellence. So I don't think enough people value excellence. I don't think enough people have high enough standards. I think the world is too okay with mediocrity. So it's two-parter. It's I need to live in a way with high standards and be very demanding of myself to always live to that standard and raise it consistently, and then be in pursuit of it. So hopefully the way I show up in the world, whether again it's a podcast, it's books, it's speaking, it's whatever, that they say, oh, that inspires me to want to raise my standards, to want to be able to make a bigger impact and want to make a positive dent in the world. So the words are very intentional and very specific for a reason. And I think everybody should. That's why it's hard to get it right, because it took me time and effort and repetitions and many conversations with Brooke to get there, but it's okay. It's supposed to be kind of a messy process. Right. This stuff's not easy. If it were easy, and everybody already be doing it, but almost nobody's doing it. And so it's if once you get there, it just makes all decision making much cleaner, much clearer moving forward. Whereas if you don't know it, I think it just slows you down. You're unsure. Oh, what should I do? Well, if you have a clear purpose and clear values, then you just make decisions in accordance to that. So that's why I think it's so important to get really clear on it.
And I think so many people don't do it because it's not easy. You break it down a little bit in a book, how to do it. But so I want to ask you the process, like how do we do it? I want to emphasize to the listeners the importance of this. It is hard. And you just need to start writing. You need to start going through the process. And maybe you write, like I've had 7 different purposes over the course of the last 7 years that have evolved over time. And I've thought about it a lot. And there's 2 important elements of it. You can feel your conviction behind the exact words and the intentionality of exactly what it means. As a listener, I want you to play that back, how intentional and how much time Ryan has thought about it, because it is extremely important. And it is the compass that needs to guide you. And we'll talk a little bit maybe about how we take that and deploy it into what we do day to day. But what's the process? Like, what did the process look like for you? Or what would you tell the listeners who, it's only 8 or 10 words, right? pretty easy, but not really. So what's that process look like? And what are the two key elements of your purpose statement?
I think you should get help with from somebody else who's good at this. I believe that basically for everything in life. I'm a big believer in coaching for like anything that you're going to do. And some people can use YouTube or technology to learn, and that's cool too. But this one, I think you can learn a lot through talking things out. So it's no surprise that I've had a podcast for 11 years and learned through dialogue, learning through having conversations. So again, I sat down with Brooke Cups and we just talked through what I feel I'm put here to do, what I feel I'm maybe good at, what I'm striving for. And so how that came about was I was talking about standards. I was talking about mediocrity. I was talking about Ron Allery, a coach who raised my level of thinking of what I was capable. He was my high school offensive coordinator, and he made me believe that I was better than I actually was. And then I actually played to the level that he had set for me, which was higher than my own expectations. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that, but I'm also super grateful that he was in my life. And so I'm thinking about, that's part of what Brooke asked. She's like, who are people you really admire? Who are people that really have impacted you in a big way? And like, what is it that they did? And Ron Allery, like, raised the standard. He made me believe. And he lived that way as well as a coach, and showing up early and always taking notes and always being super prepared and being very demanding of himself and then demanding of others. And so I thought, I love that style, that high standard, that, yeah, I hope you value it. I want you to value excellence. I want you to value raising the bar for yourself. So I have to live in that way and then be in pursuit of it because it's aspirational. So it came through a lot of dialogue, again, with a person that I deeply respect and love, and unfortunately get to work with and got to do a multi-year project with, writing a book together. So if you have people like that in your life, or you need to find others like that, I think it helps to do it with someone who loves you and cares about you and who understands this. So you can it starts really messy. You get like really rough, drafty at the beginning, and then you start like constricting it and narrowing it down as you go. But that's the process for me. Is we talked about people I admire, people that really impacted me, and then how I could potentially do that for others. And then we wordsmithed it to get to where it is today.
Yeah. And again, I would just encourage people, like, just for first of all, get a coach. And you talk about this in the book. You become with whom you associate. You got to surround yourself with people that have a high standard. If they have low standards, you're going to have low standards. That's who you're going to become. You've been hanging out with people that have extremely high standards, 600 interviews, Brooke Cups, other people like that. I'm sure there's many that we don't know of that you're just on a regular basis. Truly, you become with whom you associate. So the other thing you talked about around this purpose is that once we kind of write it down, but now we have to live it. Like, we can't just have a purpose statement. Yes, it's better than nothing, but there's kind of this strategy deployment process that we use to get from our purpose statement to, what am I going to do right now? What am I going to do in the next hour? What am I going to do today? And you said purpose, values, habits, I think. But talk us through that deployment process where we get this high level statement that we feel really, really good about to, this is why I'm going to pick up the trash in the park.
Yeah. Purpose, values, critical behaviors. Values don't mean anything without the behaviors that go onto them. So when you're going to establish those, so like sometimes you see companies with values on the walls, and some of those they do a good job of them, and some of them they don't. So really the behaviors are how you honor and make the values true. So I mentioned to you earlier that my critical behavior for my thankful value is leave it better. So that's the phrase I have in my mind, is leave it better. The longer version is leave people, places, and things better than I found them. Leave it better is a kind of a Girl Scout term from a while ago of you just leave everything better than you found it. So my critical behavior for thoughtful is seek to understand, right? This is to have an open mind when I'm having conversations with people. As I mentioned to you earlier, have conversations with wide varieties of people and try to be fascinated by their stories, right? My critical behavior for curious is a little weird. I use push my edges. What I mean by that, for pushing my edges, is to regularly ask questions and have conversations with people who are far wiser than me. That's pushing my edges. It's hard to hang with somebody who is just brilliant in whatever it is they do, right? I don't ever really win with brilliance. I win with endurance. I win with the ability to keep going, which leads me to my last value, which is consistent, right? And that is the critical behavior is show up. And so how am I, if you're not necessarily brilliant, you still have ways to win. And as I mentioned, you could win by enduring. You could win by continuing to show up. You win by being there every day. That consistent value, my podcast, I launched it 11 years ago and started releasing an episode on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes I'll release episodes more frequently than that, but that is the bare minimum. I have never, ever missed in 11 years, never missed a Sunday at 7 p.m. An episode has come out every single Sunday since launch. Consistency is important to me. That's how you build trust. That's how you follow through on your word. It's creating forcing functions in your life to actually do the work and show up. So again, I like to be able to create simple prompts for myself at the end of each day that I can ask so that I can make sure I'm living those values. So how do you do it now? You get your first draft of your values. You then tag a behavior with each of those values, a la thankful, leave it better, right? And then at the end of each of those days, what specifically did you do today to leave people, places, and things better than you found them? Answer that question, right? It takes a minute, right? Do it for all 4 of them or however many values that you have. That's how you live in alignment. That's how you make your values true. If you do that and stack day after day after day, again, I like your chances of leaving a positive dent in the world. I think that's what we're put here to do. I like being around people who put a positive dent in the world, who actually make a difference, who are transformational people, transformational leaders. A lot of people just exist. I want to help them. I want to inspire them. I hope that I can, but to me, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to exist. I'm here to put a dent. And so I'm trying my best to do that in a positive way.
Yeah, I love that. And first of all, there's a lot of similarities here, because I think just, if you're contentment isn't a bad thing, but contentment when you have more to give and you don't have it figured out yet, contentment around that is not always okay. We can't be content. We can't just exist. We have to go after something. We have to live on the edges. You talk about pushing the edges. And actually what I like is I want to transition with your curiosity value. You're using that not to just learn more, yes, to learn more, but also to push your edges, to push your limits. And you're okay, how can I learn? And when I learn this, how can I use this and put it into action with courage and consistency? You talked about that too. And a big part of that, and a major thing that holds us back that you talk about this is, but fear of failure, this is the biggest thing holding people back. And it's not fear of, there's just so many different fears of failures. Talk about this a little bit and how whether it's launched the podcast, reached out to some of these major players in the self-development industry, and I'm sure got a ton of rejection through that process too. Talk about getting over the hump, getting over your own fears to take action and really live out and pursue excellence.
Sometimes being afraid can be good, as it sounds like you read. I still have a fear of letting my teammates down. I still think about that. I still use it as some fuel. I think it can be paralyzing if it's too much of your motivation, if it's too much of what you think about. So it's like a lot of things in life. Life it's just not black and white. It's very, very gray. There's a lot of nuance to it. And I think the fear thing is too. It can work as a useful fuel to create, like work as a forcing function to be overly prepared, to ensure that you don't let your teammates down. Literally right before this we connected, I was with my team. We're preparing for a big workshop we're getting ready to do in Charleston, South Carolina in 2 weeks. I mean, there's fear. I don't want to let my teammates down. We're doing this together. We both have to be, we all have to show up really prepared and really ready to go. It's a huge opportunity for us. It's a big group. It could lead to a lot more work after that if we do a good job. And so, yeah, there's some natural fear. I view it more of like, Jim Collins' productive paranoia from his book, Great by Choice. I am almost always productively paranoid. I think that's been helpful for me in sports and keynote speaking and hosting a podcast and everything, right? And so it's just figuring out how you can use that to benefit you. But you first have to really know yourself in order to do that. So it takes a high level of awareness to understand how to best use fear, I think, to as positive fuel as opposed to maybe the dirty fuel that can end up being paralyzing.
And I think, we hit on this a little bit, but when we think about fear, in my opinion, a lot of times fear is not internal, it's external, or I should say external thoughts, what other people are going to think. And a lot of our fears are external versus internal. And I want to tie this to the prior discussion too of, excellence is, in my opinion, internal, success is external, right? There's a lot. I mean, the score that matters is internal, not external. And I think life, so, Tim Kite, we talked about that a little bit, E plus R equals O, you're familiar with that. But there's events of life, there's response, and there's outcomes. But outcomes are external things we want. But how I think about this is there's life and there's your behaviors, there's how you live. And that's where we need to focus only is what we do, how we live, our internal, like what we're doing or what we're thinking about and what we're doing ourselves, not the results we get. If we do that, I think we'll get the results, but we have to separate from those. So let's talk about this, just your take on all the fear, all the success, excellence, and internal versus external. And really, I think there's you said, hey, there's so many ways to measure ourselves in society right now, right? There's so many ways to measure our external results, which I think leads to all kinds of issues and anxiousness and anxiety and, many, many problems. But tell me your take on this whole like internal, external, and how you put that into action.
The book probably should have been titled The Score That Matters Most, because I do think the scoreboard does matter, especially if you're in sports. If you lose too many games, you get fired. I mean, Mike Gundy just got fired at Oklahoma State. He's given half of his life to that place. He's lost too many games. So it does matter. You still, if you're going to play a game, you might as well try to win. I'm very competitive. Brooke Cup's very competitive. So I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to win the game. We do want to win the games when we play. I mean, my high school age daughter plays volleyball, and we talk about that, right? Like we really focus on controlling what she can control is her effort, her attitude, her being a great teammate and a captain for her teammates, right? That's all really, really important. But that's really what the internal stuff is what's within your control versus what's not. And what's within your control is how you choose to show up each day, how you choose to be there and serve your teammates, how the attitude you bring to it, how hard you choose to work, the values that you choose for yourself, intentionally living those values out. All of these things are within your control. And so that's really what the intrinsic element of it is are you focusing on what's within your control consistently? I mean, Ryan Holiday talks about this with stoicism. It's similar. Are you focused on those elements? And we believe, and I think it's been proven given the records of the people we've worked with and what we've done, that if you get really, really good and really, really focused on what is within your control, the results usually take care of themselves. Not always, but usually they will. It's fascinating to see that the people who are really, really good and really, really clear at focusing on their internal scoreboard, right? As Bill Walsh said, champions behave like champions long before they win a championship, right? That his book's called The Score That Takes Care of Itself. It's very, very similar ethos of a way of showing up. And so we try to help people focus on the things that's within their control. And then it's cool to see when the results end up taking care of themselves, whether it's a company that's shooting for a big valuation or a certain revenue target. We understand the revenue target's out there, right? That's the state championship or the national championship. We're not we understand that that's there. We're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the actual daily behaviors that we then believe the result will end up being that, but we're not really focused on that. We're focused on the intrinsic stuff.
And so if we talk about goals and how to set goals, and I think this is whether it's for your business, if you're leading a small team, personally, whether that's around health or family, how do we set process goals? But you make a great point that we still get an outcome, and we see that and others see that. And that doesn't mean our initial process goals were wrong. That's feedback. We have an outcome. We didn't hit our revenue target. We don't say, okay, change the revenue target. No. What process goals did we not get right? Do we just need more time, or did we not set the right process goals to get the outcome that we want? But we have to go back to what we can control. And I think if we do that, if we put it on the line on all of our process goals in every area of life, that's where we can get contentment, right? We can be content with what we've done if we have the right goals, but don't ignore them. So if you talk about whether it's a company you support and coach, your own company, whatever it is, tell me, help me think through these process goals and that whole cycle.
I would just try to reverse engineer. I mean, I worked in sales at LexisNexis for 12 years as a rep, manager, director, and VP. And we all, Rex Caswell, one of my first mentors, when I had to get an actual real job after I got done playing football, he was really big on reverse engineering what it takes for you to exceed the results goal. And so what's within your control is your behavior each day. So in that world, how many phone calls does it take to get an appointment? How many appointments does it take to get a product demonstration? How many product demonstrations does it take to get a proposal? How many proposals does it take to close a deal? And what is your average order value, right? It's math. It becomes a math equation. Then hopefully your effectiveness as a sales professional in that world, you get better and better. So your numbers improve as well, as far as it takes fewer numbers to achieve it. It's just focusing on the process. It's focusing on the things within your control and knowing what those numbers are, if that's the type of world that you live in, which I was in for more than a decade. It's similar. There are parts of like the sporting world that are out of your control. Maybe you run up against a team that just is flat out better than you that day and it doesn't work, right? That happens. But really it's just being focused on those behaviors and what you need to do each day. And you're iterating and tweaking as you go, learning from mistakes. So you're not, I think you make a commitment to it, but you also are open to learning and growing and improving on what those behaviors are. But if you stay true to that, again, I like your chances of the results taking care of themselves.
So if we go back to, the easiest thing to see is just your success that you've had from pursuing excellence, but around your podcast, the guests, the impact you're having. And I think that's what's really driving you. As you said, just your purpose statement is around that. I don't know when you created your purpose statement, but if we go back, 11 years, whether it's around your podcast or the coaching you've done, we have people listening right now that they're thinking about, do I take on that new role? Do I train for that marathon? Do I start that business? There's fears that are going on, or do I stop doing what I started? And then maybe they don't have the conviction or the consistency. Have you had that? Have you thought about not starting? Had you thought about quitting anything before you kind of had developed this mindset? When did you really struggle with this that could, if you're really authentic about it, that could be impactful for our listeners?
I try to be pretty diligent about the choices I make and then make a deep commitment. I think it's just important to understand why you're doing what you're doing. For example, one of the things that happens now that I've been hosting a podcast for 11 years is a lot of people will ask me to, how do I launch mine, or how do I get better guests, or how do I get it to grow, or how do I get people to listen, and a variety of questions. And the first question I always would ask them is why are you doing it? And sometimes the answer is, podcasting are hot right now. It's a great marketing tool to help grow my business, or help me get speaking gigs, or help me get a book deal, or help me get more famous, whatever. Any of those things could be said, because that is happening in that space. It's still booming. If that's the answer that I receive, I'll be very honest with them and tell them that I'm guessing you're going to quit. It's too hard. It's too hard to sustain over time if those are your reasons for doing it. When somebody tells me my reasons for hosting an interview style podcast are because I am fascinated by people. I love learning from others. I'm deeply curious about other people's stories. I love asking questions. I love even more asking follow-up questions based on what I'm learning from people. Basically, what they're telling me is they love the actual act of doing the thing. Again, I like their odds more than the one who is seeking some external outcome because they host a podcast. And unfortunately, I've tried to help lots and lots, hundreds of people who do this over the past decade. And almost every single one of them has quit because their why is not strong enough. It gets hard. Nobody listens. It doesn't grow. Whatever, all that happens. I actually literally just did this yesterday with somebody who's probably going to quit soon. It was like the second or third call I've had. It's because they're seeking some sort of other outcome as opposed to loving doing the actual work. I think that's important. I think your why for doing what you do has to be very, very strong, and the reward has to be that you get to keep doing the thing. Yeah. That's what I think is important. If that's what it is, again, I like your chances. But if you're seeking some external thing from it, you're going to be disappointed, and then you're probably going to stop. And I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I first thought of when you talk about quitting or struggling. Think about why you're doing what you're doing, and if it's for any other reason other than doing the actual thing, I think it's tough to be consistent over the course of many years.
And I think tying the earlier discussion around get started on the process of why, yes, have a team or a coach that helps you figure that out, but just get started. And if you think this thing that you're going to be doing is in alignment with your why, get started on that thing. Start that. And you might learn that's not the thing because it doesn't support the why, or your why's wrong and you change the thing. But you have to start. To me, getting clarity on your purpose is an iterative process, right? It's not going to be perfect the first time. Just start, just do it. But also start acting upon your purpose. Start doing things to get there. And you're gonna change it. And that's okay. But you have to start. And that's where, I love Ryan's mission to he values so much that you can be excellent. And we need people. We can't have people that are content with mediocrity. We've seen that too. It's just our society is there. Sorry, I'm on a total riff right now. You're getting me fired up because this is awesome. But start the process. Write it down. Have a discussion. If people look at you like you're crazy because you ask questions like, who are you? Why do you do what you do? You're having the right conversation. So just start. Ryan, you are having a great impact. If you want to add to that, you really got my blood pressure up there in a good way. So I appreciate that. But you're having a great impact. And if you step back and you really think about what you've been doing, the impact you're having, how does it, if you just step back, how does what you do, how does it make you feel?
I mean, it makes me feel good. I feel super fortunate, super grateful. I think is the main word. I realize that this idea of being able to do the thing you love doing and seeing it impact people in a positive way and being able to get paid and provide for my family, that those are concentric circles, that's rare. Not many people get to do it. And to me, that's, I'll just never stop being grateful for that. And I will try my best to never, ever take that for granted. I spoke with Morgan Housel yesterday. He's probably my favorite writer as of now. He's written some books and he writes the Collaborative Fund. He writes a blog every once in a while. And he said to me, the simplest formula for a pretty nice life, independence plus purpose, the independence to do what you want and the wisdom to want to do meaningful things, right? The simplest formula for a pretty nice life, independence plus purpose, the independence to do what you want and the wisdom to want to do meaningful things. That's what I get to do. Yeah. It feels amazing to be able to positively impact people. earn a living and support my family doing it, which is more important. If it didn't support my family, I would have to find another thing to do that, because that trumps everything, right? Taking care of them and being a provider, that's my role, and I'm going to do that. And so to be able to do it while also impacting a lot of people and helping them get more clear on who they are and how they show up in the world and how they can impact people, and seeing the ripple effect that has far and wide, it's the best, man. That's like the juice. That's the motivation to keep getting better, so that I get to keep doing it.
Can you repeat
cool.
So first of all, before you had said like independence plus purpose, I wrote down freedom, like, because I think you said removing the barriers, like the freedom to get to do what we love to do is so powerful. Before I come back to the concentric circles, but there's people that don't have that. Like they have to work, maybe they have to work the 9 to 5 and they're not finding purpose in it. How do they change that? Do they need to find purpose in what they're doing? Help that person that doesn't have all the independence right now. Not with financial strategies. I'm not talking about that, but like, how do they think through and get to these 3 concentric circles that you referenced?
I mean, find purpose in what you do. Most people don't do what I do. I know that. They have a job like I used to have, which, by the way, was a really good job for a really, really good company with great people. I still had purpose there. I still had, I mean, I didn't love every element of it, but I loved a good chunk of it. And I think that's great. I mean, I think you can absolutely find your purpose and live it out within the course. Do you have as much freedom or as much independence? Maybe not as much, but you can still have a really good setup within a company, even if you're not fully independent. Like I mean, I still am accountable to people. I have families' lives that depend on me getting us work, right? That's part of my role within our company is helping us earn the work so that we can earn money. And then that takes care of the families that I feel I'm serving, that I'm responsible for. So including my own. So I think you could still do that within a company. You don't have to have nobody's like fully independent and free all the time. We all have parts that we don't like fully love. I just probably happen to have a little bit more than I used to, and maybe a little bit more than most of the people that I know. But still, I have many friends who are within companies that aren't fully free or independent, but still have really, really good setups that can live out their values and their purpose and support and provide for their family and do it in a way that makes everybody feel really good. I think that's absolutely available to anybody.
Yeah. And I think for me, similar corporate backgrounds, but I think in my corporate career, I got caught up in the vehicle, and I looked at the vehicle as maybe limiting my purpose. But I would tell people that no, the business you're in, the business you're leading, the business you're owning, the team you're managing, the product doesn't matter. The company doesn't matter. You're working with people. And Ryan talked about it earlier, but your purpose statement has what you're going to do with what impact you're going to have. So if you're working with people, which I'm sure you are in any company, in any organization, you can have an impact and you can have purpose. And that's just the vehicle that allows you to do it. So yes, you can work towards more and more independence, but you still can have an impact. You can still live out your purpose today. So Ryan, this has been, I would like to talk for another hour if you're willing, but I won't do that to you. I know we got to stop here in a little bit. This has been so good for me. I just have enjoyed getting to know you better. I enjoy this process so much and just digging in and learning more and either, challenging my thought process or validating my thought process, one of the two. And you've done both of those today. I appreciate it. I hope you've also done that for our listeners. I'm sure you have. You're all over the place. If you can't find Ryan, you don't know how to use the internet. But Ryan, where would you like to direct people? How can people find out more about you?
Home base for everything is learningleader.com. So podcast is called The Learning Leader Show. If you search Learning Leader or my name, it'll pop up. But learningleader.com has everything that we do.
Awesome, Ryan. Thanks so much. This has been really impactful. Hopefully for you, our listeners, if it has been, please share it. Please check it out. Check out Ryan's podcast. It's phenomenal. Not only a lot of amazing guests, but you don't get amazing guests if you're not a thoughtful, curious, grateful, person like Ryan is that just really wants to learn and get better. And you can tell if you listen to his episodes, he's very curious because he wants to have an impact, but he also wants to keep building his own self-awareness and becoming the best version of himself. He's doing it. Ryan, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate it, man.
This was awesome. For the Purpose Matrix, signing off.